All right. Welcome to Agribusiness Matters. My name is Venki Ramchandran. Agribusiness Matters is an endeavor to discover systems thinking in food and agriculture in an age of runaway climate change. Today, I'm really excited to have this town hall dialogue with Rahul, Ruchit, and Nitin, three pioneering gentlemen who've been sort of driving the direct to farmer and direct from farmer trader commerce ecosystem in many fascinating ways. These all you three gentlemen have been sort of doing in very stellar work in many ways. Let me first add you to the spotlight here so that we could have a more focused conversation. Great. So while we wait for people to join in and other members to also join in, let me sort of informally break the ice. And in many ways, I've been following all three of your journeys for quite some time, and I feel this sector being a very complex sector, and each of us have a very different way of solving some of the challenges in the sector. And in many ways, I feel all three of you are tackling the sector's challenges in different angles. And that's the intent behind doing this kind of a town hall panel where we explore in each different ways how each of you are sort of been tackling the sector. And since I think most of you in the agri-tech ecosystem know all of you, so I'm not going to formally introduce you. But I thought it'd be good to, for each of you, I believe that all your reputation precedes you. So in many ways, I really want to kickstart this conversation with more around where have your journeys been, and also we'll delve into some of the challenges that are there in the sector there. But first of all, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us in Agribusiness Matters.
Thanks, Venki.
Great. So let me start off with maybe with Nitin here. Nitin, you've spent time in almost every other sector inside pertaining to agri-tech, and you've probably developed almost a holistic view in some sense, I would say, in looking at various angles in which the problem could be tackled, right from your experience in Yes Bank and with Samunati to Farmart, and then now here. How do you see this journey from your journey and to where you are right now building in Kisaansay?
Thanks, Venki. Thanks very much. So I spent most of my time in the food and agribusiness sector, working with ITC, many other companies in operating roles, and then as a banker as well in the food and agri sector. And the one single thing I realized was that despite all the good work that everybody in the food and agri ecosystem is doing, consumers are unfortunately not getting the best products, and farmers are unfortunately not getting the best livelihoods, right? And these are two big problems waiting to be solved, despite billions and billions of dollars flowing into the sector, despite the best of the might of global multinational companies, large Indian corporates, cooperatives to some extent. Amul, of course, stands out as one lone shining, large example of how they've done things at scale. But the point is, the kind of impact that's been created is perhaps not even 1% of what it should be. And if we want to solve the problem of better food for consumers and better livelihoods for farmers, you need a completely different model than what is prevailing currently. And we somehow divide ourselves into two worlds. One is the typical NGO development sector way of working. And the other extreme is the way market forces work and large corporations work. And because we've divided ourselves into two different zones or partitions, so to say, we've never been able to cross-fertilize the kind of ideas, thoughts, people, system, processes into one concrete holistic model, which can actually benefit from both sides, and then create a model that is both market-facing, based on the principles of market economics on the one hand, yet it is fulfilling all the requirements and needs of what you would term as a holistic developmental model in the typical developmental world parlance. So that's something that struck me, and of course the seeds of this were sown when I went to IRMA, the Institute of Rural Management, Anand, which was 25 years ago, and that was a time when Dr. Varghese Kurian was very much alive and kicking. And we would interact with them just like we're sitting right now on a video conference. Of course, at that times or every few months, while we were on campus in Anand, we would get an opportunity to listen to him. Of course, we wouldn't talk. He would do the talking 99% of the time. And some of that, remains in the back of your mind somewhere, in some corner somewhere there. And then while I spent time working on ground in the food and agribusiness sector for the last 23, 24 years, maybe it was building up slowly. And then, of course, I was enriched with a lot of these experiences of having worked in various kinds of companies and organizations. And then all of it, somehow came together. So that's the story of, how Kisaansay started.
It was fascinating. I mean, I really like how you're framing these two different universes, and in terms of one is the development sector and the other is from the market forces. Because at many levels, yes, the problems are accentuated by our lenses in which we view these two different worlds. And I think in many ways, yes, we are striving for unity, and at the same time, we are also seeing that each of these sector has had a certain sense of biases there, right? Wherever market failures have had, the development sector has worked for it. But wherever markets are stronger there, I think so that's a very interesting way you're framing it. And in fact, I was looking at your old TED videos where you're talking about how you got pulled up by I think the committee where where you were also sort of made this thing that you won't be a part of certain organizations. So did that seed of that this divide start from that time?
Yeah, of course. And in fact, so Dr. Kurian, the same gentleman, was the one who pulled us up. And of course, at that point, we were trying to seek placements in companies which were literally, quote unquote, banned to come to an institute like IRMA. And people would only get an opportunity to work in the typical development sector world. And there was a group of us who thought otherwise. We said you can still do a lot of development even if you're not working in the so-called development sector. And then, we went off campus and lots of other things happened, etc. But yes, the seeds were sown, I would say, very much then. And in fact, Dr. Kurian, when we graduated in the convocation speech, he used to be the chairman of our board of governors. He did make a special mention of this group of 14 of us who had opted out, saying that you're doing what you're doing right now, but I know one day you guys will come back. So Dr. Kurian up there must be watching us doing whatever we are doing.
Fascinating. Thank you. Ruchit, I want to maybe, kickstart this conversation with you in terms of, I've been watching your HFN journey primarily from Twitter, actually, because you've sort of, doing some, I get to see a lot of interesting work that is happening in, which HFN has been doing in Twitter there. And over time, you've also seen, from working in, from Microsoft to getting 9 Slides acquired and then moving into HFN. Initially, I think the model was more around sort of, getting data and access for improving the lending, right? So in that, from that sense, I when I was looking back at your history and seeing what the work and how the evolution has been for HFN, what I observed was the pandemic was sort of shifted largely the focus for HFN from sort of being a lending kind of player towards the current kind of format that where it is there. So was that the pivotal moment that sort of led to where HFN is right now at this point for you?
Kind of, right? So as you rightly said, I've built Xbox operating system, Windows Phone at Microsoft headquarters. Left it, built a sold a company in US. I started harvesting in 2016. So it's 8+ years now, full time. Initially, the way I see the world, farming world, is information asymmetry because everything is there. It's just the right thing is not reaching to the right stakeholder at the right cost, whether it is seed, fertilizer, or the product to the consumer. So my focus was to build this supercomputing infrastructure, sort of a Google map for agriculture, wherein if you throw a dart on the globe, my AI 8 years ago could tell that with how much percentage accuracy is that a farmland, what is the confidence level if there's a rice field, and what is the yield. Because if you have those fundamental data point, you can do so many things from lending to insurance to logistics to everything else. We built pretty heavy duty systems. We were selling the intelligence to microfinance institutions across the world. Nigeria, Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, Myanmar. I was flying all over the place. But eventually, I realized that there were some fundamental flaws there, and I would need a lot more capital than I had access to build the vision I have. In around 2019, then one day, we decided as a family to just, sell everything in US and we moved to India. So with family, school-going kids, we now moved back to India in 2019 and COVID just happened. So yes, in COVID, then, I started this Twitter channel, which sort of ended up being the great information. I think it filled my information asymmetry because I think I was trying to solve financial inclusion for farmer by doing the lending and insurance or providing information so that MFIs can do better. But what it helped me understand that the best financial inclusion for farmer is actually helping them get better prices. So that's the first order business versus trying to do lending and insurance. So April 12th, 2020 is when I tweeted about six farmers. In about 18 months, I posted about $500 million worth of crops. Personally, I was posting from 4 a.m. in the morning to the night. Several of the farmers who made sales. And then from there, they started building the story because farmers started saying, oh, phones are coming, but we are not able to sell. Customers are saying, hey, you were posting about Twitter or Mumbai farmer, but I can't even find it. So we said, okay, let's create hfnmandi.com so that somebody can search, somebody can filter, or can we do matchmaking, and so and so and so forth. So yeah, you can definitely say that the constraint COVID put in terms of not being able to go out, not having access to, finances and stuff, helped me think through this. And it was sort of a rebirth for HFN. We haven't given up on the original idea. I think we still are on it, and I think one of these days we can probably come back and say with lot more confidence where in India what crop is growing and with what yield. We are very, very close to some of the most exciting agriculture intelligence we have seen anywhere in the world.
Great. I think, yeah, I mean, in many ways, it almost feels like, at one level, when I look at all three models there, it seems like the time has come in and now with furthermore data, we could probably move towards some of the bigger aspirations we all have in store, right? Rahul, I know you also started off with a similar technological journey working as a vice president in Cropin. And then you also went to the other end of the deep dive, right? From working in tech and there to almost getting into a mode where you started working more focused on GI-based crops and building a marketplace around GI-based crops. How did that shift for you happen when in our conversation you were almost telling me like somewhere technology doesn't solve the problem. The kind of for the fundamental challenges that are there in this sector there. How did that realization dawn on you and what led you to what you're right now doing in AmalFarm?
So Venki, as you rightly pointed that, technology in agriculture, what I feel is an enabler. But the crux is that how the, produce moves from farm to a consumer, right? And all these technology as an enabler works to integrate that, right? But basically, technology works where there is no physical movement of the goods best, like money, right? From one bank to another bank, from customer account to another customer account. But this is a physical good with a lot of variability, right? So when it moves from one location to other location with lot of variability, technology can help you track it. But eventually the produce has to come at the customer end physically. So that is what I felt when I was working, when there was no 4G or 5G with a GPRS system in 2012-13, when technology, there was not like these startup buzz was also not there in 2012-13, right? So we used to roam village to village with a GPRS phone and searching Airtel kahan aata hai network, where can I find an app, run the app and show to the customer that how the entire technology works, like smart farm tool, how that does actually works. So the genesis of AmalFarm actually took place when COVID struck. So people are eating food, but still you see that the government is today also talking about nutritional deficiency, right? Nutritional insecurity. Food security you have, but you don't have the nutritional security. So whatever food we are eating, and we have enough facts that it is not good at nutrition, right? So now what is the gap? So that's how, as a customer, when I feel that staying in all metro cities and purchasing directly from the shelf, when you see the behavior of the customer, they just shop inside, take a cart, and whatever things that comes up, oh, urad dal, tuar dal, masoor dal, they just stuff in their cart, right? Go to the check-in counter and check out, and that's it. That's how shopping happens. But what is happening inside when you cook the food, right? So that is how the genesis started. That what people should know, there is a big disconnect between the food we consume and the food is grown in the market. That's how I started looking at, and then I started finding that where should we start. So in Bihar we have a lot of GI tag products, right? So we started, let's do think about these products, like how this actually solves the nutritional problem, because these are grown traditionally. And these product looks good when you eat it, when you consume it for the body. So that's how we started digging dive into the deep into the GI tag portfolio. Then when we started around 4 years back, the R&D part of market survey part, that time, the GI, we have very less GI even in India, right? Then in this last 2-3 years, a lot of GI registration, the source from origin concept has evolved too much. And, people are also looking for such kind of product. So that's how the journey started.
Great. I think, it's interesting you're saying the source of origin has evolved too much. In many ways today, when we talk about a direct to farmer kind of models, we've been talking about that for a very, very long time, right? Hindi mein kahavat hote ki pani, it's one of my favorite lines from a Sufi saying, which says, "Pani, pani, ratte, ratte, pyasa hi mar jaye." Right? We all been talking about this idea of farmer se seedha lenge for a very, very long time. Right. But somewhere it kept at an aspirational level, and it almost became a mirage in many ways, right? Because I have personally seen so many cases where we talk about farmer, but we know that it was procured from a trader or a distributor or a wholesaler, right? From that, to a stage now where we are, and for a time we thought the technology will solve this problem, blockchain will solve this problem. But now we have come to a stage where in 2024, where we are directly collaborating with farmer enterprises there. So the one question I want to ask, maybe to kickstart this panel, is why do you think that this has taken so much time for these kind of models to sprout? Itna वक्त लगने का मतलब what do you think has sort of held this ecosystem for such a long time for sprouting these kind of models in this current stage of time? Any one of you, maybe Nitin, or maybe Nitin, you could start off with.
I think what has happened, Venki, is in most cases, companies, corporations, startups have come up with solutions, and then somehow they are trying to hunt for a problem. Very rarely would you see, and these includes large multinational companies as well. The last 20 years, starting from early 2000s, is when this entire so-called, direct from farm movement started, whether output, input, data monetization, funding, financing, etc., etc. So I think that's what has happened. And some consultant would have given some rosy picture of some business model working loosely somewhere in some context in some part of the world. And then you see 1 billion people here in India, and then you have an Excel sheet and a PowerPoint, and then you build some solution retrofitted for India, and it never works, right? So Hindustan की problem क्या है, पहले तो वो समझना है. So unfortunately, Venki, with all due respect to all professionals in the food and agri sector, there are very few people, first of all, who understand problems. And the basic genesis of a solution is to first understand a problem that, okay, hey, the farmer is not able to get a good price, fine. Or rather, let me go to your own argument or the statement you made 5 minutes ago that people have been trying to buy directly from farmers. Now, buying directly from farmers doesn't mean anything to me as a consumer. What difference does it make whether a product was bought directly from a farmer or it came through an artiya or it was processed by a multinational company or a small enterprise or a startup? What difference does it make to me? My problem is as a consumer, मुझे राजमा खाना है. क्या मुझे आप एक ऐसा राजमा ला के दे सकते हो which I don't have to soak overnight? My biggest problem as a consumer is I don't have a rajma which is ready to cook early in the morning. Because most of this rajma comes from plains or imported from Burma or wherever, and it's a certain type of rajma which doesn't do that. So that's my problem, for example. Or I want a walnut which is full of oil, but unfortunately the imported ones that I buy have only 30-40% oil. They don't taste so good. I remember I used to have good walnuts during my grandfather's days when he used to give me 4 or 5 walnuts every day, but now they don't taste the same, right? Or I want a box of cardamom, which if I take a single pod of cardamom, that should be enough for my tea or biryani versus putting 2 or 3 pods, right? Or if I have a rice, I'm diabetic, I'm not able to get the same kind of flavor aroma and also ensure that it is healthy with low glycemic index, etc. So now to solve that problem, do I have a product? Do I have a market construct? Do I have a business model which will be able to solve this problem for all stakeholders, whether it's the end consumer on the one side or the farmer on the other side? So this is just an example I'm giving.
Sure.
And like this, there could be solutions for tech. If I'm a bank, if I'm a consumer, what solution do I create so that it actually works, on ground? So that is the very, very fundamental philosophical basic point where we seem to have missed it. And there are ample examples of startup, large corporations who burnt literally millions and hundreds of millions of dollars trying to create solutions where a problem never existed in the first place. Or maybe at best, it was a marketing budget for them. And they would have just written it off, doing some small little thing. In their parlance, it was small little thing. For us, of course, it's something big money at stake. So that is the reality. So first of all, understand the problem and then find a solution rather than coming with a solution and then trying to understand where your problem is. It's as simple as that. It's no more complex than that.
Yeah, no, see, at one level, there is a certain, at least, especially after pandemic, at least a certain kind of perception that, yes, for consumers, they may not really, I was having this chat with this investor the other day where we were talking about the Indian consumer largely cares about taste and the price point.
Correct.
And beyond that, he doesn't care much about it. But at least to a certain extent, there is also equally a certain segment of audience which are now wanting to go back to the source because of a certain idea of purity, of quality, and reliability of quality, right?
Correct.
And you feel that the more intermediaries you come in, you feel that the large amount of quantity the quality gets deroded. And we've seen enough number of cases where this has happened there. So that's where there is an urge to go back to the source in any sense there. But where I'm kind of also exploring this question is also from a sense of is this a marketing problem, or is this a value chain problem, or is this a technology problem? When you talked about that कि पहले जानना कि ये किस तरह की problem है, so that's where I'm kind of going to this aspect there, because in many ways, of course, there's no one answer to this here, right? And in many ways, for me, when I'm looking at all three your solutions, right, in terms of both from HFN, from AmalFarm, and from Kisaansay, I'm looking at that there are three parts of the puzzle. The value chain puzzle is there, and there is a branding FMCG puzzle is there, part of the puzzle, and there's also the technology. So that's where I am eager to kind of see how these three pieces of the puzzle fit together there. So maybe I'll go take this to Ruchit there. Ruchit, you've also been sort of building on AI systems that sort of matches crops to the best buyers. You built a mobile marketplace. Considering the kind of structural challenges that are there in this ecosystem, how have you seen technology kind of move the needle in a very tangible way?
We have our brand as well.
Yeah, of course, you have a brand, but I'm kind of in my sense right now. I mean, I know that your mustard oil is sold a lot in the country, but I'm eager to sort of look at this from a technological lens, given your rich background here. There,
Yeah. No, I mean, rightly said, we sell 30,000 liters without any advertisement every month, and we are only in few shops. Uh, Technology has limited work here in terms of uh, creating a farmer brand per se, a pure farmer brand. It's
Mhm.
not a technology problem per se. It's a technology problem, it's a finance problem, it's foots on the ground problem, it's the capital in hand problem, it's a patience problem, uh, all in one combined. And that's the reason most of the startup, even today, some of the really heavily funded, even though they say they are buying from farmers, they do not buy from farmers.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, it is extremely hard. And because it is, and it is to work with the farmer,
Why?
it's extremely hard to build the logistics and everything else. So I think it's wise in some ways, unless you are not crack like me, to just attack one of the problems, uh, and then say, hey, we are buying from the farmer, and then hopefully the product you have in that packet, somehow you can track it back to the farmer. Technology can be assistive in that, in terms of, hey, can you trace back this packet to the farm or even village? Maybe that's interesting, because if you pick a typical startup, I know that startup or many of those startup, even though they may have a big picture of a farmer on their portal, have never seen the farm. Uh,
And
so
more so if it's a sad looking farmer.
happy as well. But the point
Yeah,
I'm making, it's not that, it's hard. It's frankly very hard. So how
I understand. Yeah.
is different places, right? So technology can help at the farm level, technology can help at the logistic level, technology can help at the brand level. So if we are a brand which is saying, hey, it's a farmer thing, maybe it can help you with the tracing. Maybe, there's a QR code there which you swipe and then it can show to the farm, there's some story. But there's a lot which can be made up, because I know how technology works. Similarly, on logistics, I can tell today better than the government of India how many lakh acres of wheat has been sowed or has been harvested. That can be used for logistics, that can be used for inputs, that can be used for things, including brand building. Because if you want to buy, let's say if you want to build, largest atta brand, you might want to know where these products are coming. And then similarly, at the farmer village level, technology plays a lot of role. For example, we use, very simple tech, but highly effective in terms of how to make farmer cooperate without having to have them form real cooperative, right? So typical cooperative would have 100 to 100 farmers. And one of the pieces of technology we are using is that, hey, how can we have million of farmers cooperate together? And that gives them, collaborative negotiating power and things like that. So there's no single answer to it, but there is a chain from seed to market. Technology has a lot of role in each of those sort of milestone, but it's not sufficient enough on its own.
Okay. Yeah. You know, I kind of agree in terms of like how you're sort of framing it at a very, very ground level and across each stages there. Rahul, in our earlier conversation, were also touching upon this aspect of that, what selling 1 kg is not important, selling 1 metric ton is more important, right? Where did your focus on working on at a back end level of on where you identifying buyers and more on a B2B kind of mode, or that kind of there emerge? How did that approach kind of emerge in there? Was it because today we see that one of the commonalities among all of you also is the fact that you're all dealing with a lot with groceries that are largely dry groceries, right? Either a dry and on if it's from dry fruits and nuts and pulses and spices there, right? So is that in this kind of a for this kind of a specific product category is there, do you see the challenges more in the processing and the back end infrastructure more than the front end side?
Yes, Venki. I mean, agriculture is very operational heavy, right? And even customer doesn't care, as Nitin ji was saying, that customer doesn't care, right, from where the product is coming. उसको सिर्फ ये मतलब है कि जो वो चाहता है, जिसने मन में वो सोचा है उस प्रोडक्ट के बारे में, ऐसा पैकेट फटने के बाद आना चाहिए, right? So that is the biggest problem today. So operational इतना heavy है that let's say that we are creating operational excellence at the field level for all GI tag products. So today we work on 3 different products where we have operationally set all these standard operating procedures at a location where it has been cultivated for ages. For example, Kala Namak rice. So we started a project called Dhan Se Dhan. We coined the terminology as Dhan Se Dhan, means paddy to prosperity. Now what is happening that we are most authentic blocks of the entire Siddharthnagar district, where this product has been grown for, let's say, 200, 300 years or known in Siddharthnagar, especially in the Tarai belt of, India. Now, when you go there, you see the problem at the field level is that the first of all, the segregation of the grade, right? In Kala Namak itself, there are 10 different types of grades which is available in the market, ranging from 40 rupees or 60 rupees to 130 rupees. Now, how do you ascertain that which one is good or which one was primitive, right? So varietal changes has happened, over abuse of soil has happened. So now when you go to farmer, you sit with them, then you come to know that by looking at the husk, by looking at the paddy, you can come to know that what will be the total output from the paddy, whether it will be conversion ratio of 60% or 63% of the total paddy when you mill, because you don't have high-tech mill to process it. Especially for these low grade, especially for these primitive rice varieties. So now this setting up these operations, the bringing the produce, authenticating it, then cleaning, grading, sorting, then packing, without using any fumigation, like we have been talking about ethylene oxide and all those things, right, today.
Yeah.
So without could be free from weevils. Right? How it can be kept? I have seen last 3 years, अगर आप Amazon के FBO में राइस भेजते हो, जब तक वो कस्टमर के पास पहुंचता है, वो अंडा में से कीड़ा बन जाता है. बेसिक थिंग. कभी किसने सोचा है कि राइस उसको मिल गया, वो उसने फाड़ा, एक्चुअली जब मैंने राइस भेजा था तो उसमें कीड़े नहीं थे, because it was physically from naked eyes it cannot be seen. बट जब वहां FBA में 1 महीना रहा, 45 दिन रहा, तो जब वो डिस्पैच हुआ कस्टमर के पास, उसमें से वीवर्स थे. How do you operate on these problems, which is a very foundational problem? So now we are trying to sort these kind of problems where people get not only good product, and B2B, as you mentioned, that 1 kg of selling 1 kg of rice, a ton of rice is easy for me, because that part is to the brands who are trying to build the ecosystem for the produce, right? And we want to create a market where all the brands can get authentic produce. The market can get authentic produce with a label that yes, this product is really good. And I can vouch for AmalFarm that if I buy a produce, that can be guaranteed. The trust can be guaranteed, because we are building that operational. Just a simple example, जैसे रुचित जी ने बोला कि डिलीवरी लॉजिस्टिक, पिन कोड 272-201 और 272-208 जो सिद्धार्थनगर का नौगढ़ का पिन कोड है, वहां पे आज तक कोई कुरियर पिक नहीं कर सकता है. कैसे आप उसको सॉल्व कीजिएगा? वहां से कैसे आप 12,000 या 15,000 आउट ऑफ 19,000 जो पिन कोड है इंडिया में, उसमें से अगर आप 80% भी पिन कोड में पहुंचाना चाहते हैं, तो वहां से कैसे पहुंचाइएगा? Right? So it took me 4 months to solve this challenge. As from today at pin code 272, 208 और 272, 201 से मैं 12,000 पिन कोड पे मैं माल को भेज सकता हूं एट ए ट्यून ऑफ 1 kg से लेके 500 किलो तक.
Nice.
Right? By tying up, by negotiating, by pleading with all these major logistic players that sir karo, lot of emails and all. Finally, they agreed. So we are shipping that, cleaning of the rice, lot of problem. Power chala jata hai, 4 घंटा ही power आता है.
Yeah. No, I think many people don't understand the extent to which the structural inequalities are existing in these markets.
नितिन जी ने एकदम सही बोला, right? कि मतलब फोटो लगा देने से नहीं होता है. So you know, फील्ड पे क्या प्रॉब्लम होता है जब आप वहां पे रहोगे, जिंदा रहोगे उनके साथ, 42 डिग्री पे खड़े रहोगे टेम्परेचर में उन लोगों के साथ, तो पता चलेगा कि बॉडी जलता है.
Yeah, no, I want to come back to Nitin ji here. Nitin, for your model, I saw this interesting, in our earlier conversations, you were talking about that you are, for what you're doing in Kisaansay is largely an Amul 2.2 model, right? And we had this chat also about how, in what ways you are envisaging 2.2. And I also was looking at one of your presentations where I saw that your model is largely centered around co-curating and co-branding and co-profit sharing, right? So
Right.
how did you arrive at this kind of a model where you decided to focus on the existing value chain infrastructure and sort of get into this kind of a partnerships and this kind of model per se?
So we basically took inspiration from the Amul model. Amul model is all about transparency at every level, payment, supply chain, profit sharing, etc. Number one. Number two, the Amul model rests on the power of markets, brand, distribution. So that's the second tenet. And the third one is creating value for all stakeholders who are part of the supply chain and the value chain. So whether it's the consumer, whether it's a farmer, everybody needs to profit, everybody needs to make something out of it. You can't operate in a trading mentality where X party sells to Y party sells to Z. That's not the case. It's about creating co-creating value. So the Amul model in many ways is the inspiration. The only difference is we don't, of course, operate in a cooperative structure. We are a private limited company. But the business model that we have, the business model that we've created, brings in all these three tenets of the cooperative sector, which is transparency, power of markets, creating value for all stakeholders. So how do you create a model which makes sense for the consumer, for the farmer? It does away with the baggage and the unwanted elements of maybe bureaucracy or red tapeism or whatever else typically prevails in a government-run setup, government control setup, in many cases, and at the same time benefits from professionalism. So first of all, having professional people, having the right people, good people who come from the industry, people who understand the market, understand the consumer, understand the supply chain, understand the back end. So that's the very first thing we did. Second is we created a model where the brand Kisaansay is of course there, but on every Kisaansay pack, you will also see the brand and the logo of the respective farmer group. So if it's a particular pack of walnuts, you will see the Pampur Farmer Producers Group logo and brand on the front of packs, which is a co-brand. It's Kisaansay collab with Pampur Farmers Group, right? So as a consumer, you're assured that I want a walnut which has 70% oil. It should be significantly better than an imported walnut. How do I ensure it? Because the produce has been harvested, dried, vacuum packed at source, and it comes to you directly from the farmer group whose logo is there. You can find all the details at the back of the pack. You can scan the QR code if you want to and get lots more of information. So there is an element of trust that you've created. And now you're assured that if you want a real walnut coming from Kashmir, it is coming from Kisaansay. There may be lots of people claiming they bring you Kashmiri walnuts. But in most cases, or in many cases, it could be an Afghani or a Californian walnut or a Chilean walnut, which is being passed off as Kashmiri. But it's no match, in terms of the taste, quality, etc., etc. So building this entire supply chain on the model of co-curate. So co-curate as in we work very closely with our farmer groups on food safety, compliance, labeling, packaging, etc. We work very actively with various government agencies and partners. The government, incidentally, has done a very, very good, fantastic job, especially in the last 3-4 years, to build quality, world-class infrastructure in rural areas for value addition and processing. The unfortunate part is they are all white elephants, which somebody would have created just as a tick box for his or her KRA on ground. And then the infrastructure is just there. So we said, hey, you guys have created beautiful infrastructure. Somehow it's not running. We are professionals from the industry. We worked in food companies, in marketing companies, in retail companies, in FMCG companies. We'll help these farmer groups to monetize these assets which you've created, putting in public taxpayers' money to subsidize these people. Don't worry, we'll tell them how to do it. And we'll build a model where we enable them to do the value addition supply chain at the back end. And we are a team of professionals who've worked in FMCG food companies in the past. We know how to brand, how to promote, how to sell a product, how to take it to general trade, modern trade, e-commerce. And how do we then create a model which is inclusive? So we say we'll do a co-profit sharing model where we say whatever price we sell minus whatever are the direct costs for the farmer producer company, whether it's the wholesale price, labor, packaging, distribution, logistics, and on our side, we add all that up. And whatever money we make, we share in a certain way so that it makes sense for you to do all the hard work, behind the scenes. So it has that classic three-tier model approach of Amul, where you have the farmer, the processing, and the marketing. So we follow that entire structure. We have a model where there is transparency along the way. There is profit sharing. We are monetizing the assets that have been created through government support. So it's a beautiful model which brings in, the best of what the market forces have to offer, what the government has to offer, and what a classic typical development sector world would have to offer, right? So that's in essence, what we are doing at Kisaansay.
Beautiful, beautiful. I really like how you're framing it in terms of bringing together all of these worlds in some sense, because in many times I realize this in my conversations with agripreneurs, we tend to confuse the role of state and the role of market. Right? We think that markets have to. Today the reality is also that markets players have provided the infrastructure that's missing, that's not yet provided by the state. And so markets provide that on conditional access there, and so that leads to a lot of confusion. So I really like how you are bringing this with a lot of clarity here. Ruchit, I want to maybe come to you now. Along with from direct farmer based brands that you've also been building in, right? From your mustard oils, from other set of brands. You've also been sort of building Kisaansay there, right? There is like farmer based networks, and one difference I see from Rahul's model and from Nitin's model, right, in terms of both AmalFarm and Kisaansay, you also do a lot of work in the input side there, right? What was the need for you to sort of build parallelly the network of Kisaansay, like the farmer sort of farmer friend or the largely the village level entrepreneur kind of models there in existing with a direct farmer kind of network model?
Right. So if you look at this, right, so a lot of these ideas work only when you are at a small scale, right? Or if you are doing crore, 2 crores, you can do some of these things. But as you start to scale, there's a lot of pressure on the operating capital and how you pay money to the farmer, when they get paid, and so on and so forth. So that's one big statement. So for us to be able to have better, because our numbers are pretty large, and unless you have a good handle on the money, we would not be able to execute at the level we want to execute. We're talking about hundreds of crores here. Secondly, as an organization, we wanted to be a true partner. So if I was only in input, I know beyond me, again, I see we are building this which will last beyond me. We could end up, let's say we choose input, we will end up selling a lot of input without thinking what will be the outcome. So we said, oh, let's also sign up for output, because then if as an organization, one department messes it up and there's a repercussion of selling too much input, too bad input, and we can only contain if we participate in entire value chain there. And that was, I know I can control it right now, but what's beyond me? And that was one of the reasons we said. And the third was obviously, if we are going to create a good brand, we must know what exactly farmer is growing there. So again, a lot of people are buying from traders or FPOs or whatever, packing it into farmer centric brands. But what we said, hey, we should also understand how farmer is doing the practice, because that eventually will also impact the price of the packet, right? So for example, eventually we may want to sell to Europe, and Europe has high, restrictions on
MRL norms are
level
high.
of things. Now, if I have to procure from any person, uh, it's very complicated, for various reasons. But slowly and steadily, for the set of farmer we working with, we are working towards tweaking this so that they get better price, and then we do justice to what we are saying. So that's the reason we are playing in the entire ecosystem.
Yeah, I kind of resonate with that, because in many ways, we even when we make claims there, I think what pre-harvest practices are done is something that's been very, very difficult to measure and put it on ground. So I kind of resonate with what you're saying. Rahul, I want to come back to you now. You in your presentation, you had once talked about the importance of GI crops and you're getting it about 30-40% of price margins here, right? In India, I think with Dr. Ganesh Shingmare, and there are a lot of players who are right now driving the GI based phenomenon across the country. In reality, in the ground level, how has that kind of led to, right? Has they led to sort of people acknowledging the value of those local produce there and giving them a better price margins there? Or are they still constrained by some of the market realities in terms of supply and demand? In what ways have the GI led promise has actually translated into benefits on the ground?
So I would say, Venki, that is a directly proportional to Kisaansay's success, right? Because GI means product coming from the origin or the original product, right? Which has been grown for ages, which has the nutritional values, all those multivitamins, everything, minerals, right fat, right oils there in the produce, right? GI means that, right? If you see the gadget, if you see the documentation which has been submitted before getting the GI. So you see, these are things written in their statement of case, right? When you file. So now what you're talking about, these are the agencies who are actually working as a consultant to get that product GI tagged. But that does not stop here. I mean, the real work starts from there, right? Getting a GI tag. I mean, running a coaching and getting the producing, and after that, if you don't have any job in the market, right? So the thing is that you have got that, but how the market, that's how these companies are coming up. A lot of companies are coming up, and then the promotion of that product as related to the local level beneficiary, right? Because GI talks about, I mean, for example, a rice in Govindo Bhog. How many people knows in Karnataka or Kerala that Govindo Bhog rice exists, right? Or for example, in Kerala, Navara rice is there, or Baidagi chili or GI tag is in Northeast, that Baidagi chili. I mean, from the consumer centric point of view, those who does not, follow such newses. So food has always been a regional effect, and it will always be, right? Though the idli and dosa has traveled from south to north, but all the people who stay in this area as a staple diet, it cannot be, changed, right? People from Punjab will like to have a paratha and, in the morning, right? So that is the core of their behavior, right? So these food have always been a regional effect, and this promotion of GI tag is actually helping the local economy, which I must congratulate to government, which the way they are supporting, because predominantly in the area where I work in the eastern part of the India, where most of the development agency funds flows, but if you see the ranking of the development, it is very much obvious, right? So people, a lot of GI tagging happening, and people are wanting that product. Like, I need that produce which has been there. Can you supply it? Right. So the answer is, the success of all the companies who are striving, thriving hard to get the product from the consumer and claiming that this is a very authentic, that is a success of that regional product, right? And because of lot of migration, maximum north people or this side people have relocated from this either to west or south.
Yeah.
Because of the job. But so that is also a case where the people sitting in Bangalore or people sitting in Mumbai, they yearn for a product which is being grown in their place, right? So that kya main wo mil sakta hai, and they have been fooled and cheated multiple times, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, I think the question that is also boiling down to is also in terms of generic promotion, right? Like for instance, sometime back we had the person who markets the Californian walnuts. He came to our Agribusiness Matters podcast, Mr. Sumit Saran. He runs this company which is largely where they they become this partner with the global producing companies. And then as a consortium, they sort of do the generic brand promotion activities there, right? Now the question, now that we've talked about the fundamental aspects, I'm kind of also looking at in what ways can we strengthen the generic brand promotion where we can strengthen the efforts of, each of these local brands. Because today, I might not know, I might know all the rice varieties that are grown from my native in Tamil Nadu. But I don't really know the varieties that are there in say in Calcutta or there, right? So in what ways you think the ecosystem could support all their efforts? Maybe I'll ask this question to Nitin here. Is there a way where we can maybe look at a local regional based consolidation like a brand marketing councils there? How are you looking at this problem at an ecosystem level to sort of strengthen these regional brands?
See, one good thing, Venki, we should learn with, since you mentioned this, learn from the Western world is the state there, the governments there has very beautifully spun an ecosystem where they work very closely with the farmers and the farmer groups. And a lot of state money goes into promoting, branding, and supporting these products, all over the world. So Washington apples, California almonds, etc., cases in point. Unfortunately, because our food systems priorities have been different, for successive governments over the years, we've never done anything of that sort. So, for example, if the government of India today decides, and the government of India has a very fantastic program called ODOP, one district, one product. Now, if there are 700 food products coming from as many locations all over the country, can every embassy in every part of the world have a person who's stationed there, whose only job is to promote these products in that country? Simple thing, it doesn't cost money. You already have an embassy, you have a consulate in maybe 4 other cities in every country. So that's, hundreds of locations. And all you need is somebody who can spend maybe half his or her time in that place to promote these products. You can fund a lot of the promotion, marketing. You can bring in a lot of private companies who are ready to work closely with the ODOP program. So, this is something which, the governments of the West have done very, very successfully. And in fact, they've gone to the point where many third-rate products have been marketed the first-class way. And we are in the other extreme where we have first-class products which are marketed the third-class way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's just about bringing,
it stings when you say that, Nitin.
No, it's a fact. It's a fact. So, I can tell you there are so many products when we go to a lot of these events where we sample our products and we keep both products. If we have a walnut X, we will have a walnut Y. So the Kisaansay walnut and the other walnut. If we have a cardamom, we have the other cardamom. And people are really astonished that is this what we've been eating all this while? But we were made to believe that this is so and this is that and this is this. And I saw a nice a photo of a bridge somewhere over some river claiming that this walnut comes from so-and-so land, so-and-so place, etc. And forget about the story behind it. When you taste it, you find the difference. So, we don't even know, a lot of these, supply chain wastages and lots of other things also playing along the way. So it's as simple as that. If all stakeholders can come together, and I'm very happy that the government is at least starting to think, over the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen this very, very strong change in the way we engage. For example, we as a small startup, we are just 6 months old, right? That's how old we are. And we've attended at least 30 events which have been fully sponsored by the government of India to promote products from India, in India and overseas. Can you imagine? I mean, this was unthinkable 10 years ago.
Yes.
Because they say that, hey, we are aligned, we are on a mission, you're on a mission, and we work together. So if we can get all of this together, and if the Kala Namak rice of Siddharthnagar, Gorakhpur, if the walnuts of Kashmir, if the cardamom of Idukki, Kerala, if the Pahadi Rajma of Uttarakhand can actually go to various parts of the country and then also travel to the world with our full might and strength, we have excellent products with great taste. All we need to do is wonderful packaging, branding, communication, promotion, and then the sky is the limit, right? और as they say, जो दिखता है वो बिकता है, तो दिखेगा नहीं तो बिकेगा कैसे? So that's been our weakest link. We've never been a country, as a culture, India has never been, strong on marketing, branding, promotion. But I think now more than ever before, we are seeing that culture coming up, and we have the product to back the story and the brand. As I told you, it's the other way around, the first class and the third class kind of product versus branding that we were talking. So if you have if you have the product, if you have a fantastic branding, there's a lot that you can do.
Great. Ruchit, in your view, given what you have been doing in your work has been doing in HFN there, what do you think some of the things that the ecosystem could really sort of come to help what your broader mission, larger mission are? In what ways can the ecosystem strengthen what you're doing in HFN?
I mean, so government is already spending a lot of money, and I don't know कितने लोग देखते हैं मारेंगे वो मेरे को, but I think problem is कि जो पैसा वो खर्च कर रहे हैं, मार्केटिंग ज्यादा है और ग्राउंड पे काम कम है. That's the fact. So I see a lot of interesting ideas getting ODOP. There's a lot of BS going around, and that's the fact. The problem here is that you cannot just say that, oh, let's start an initiative and then you let it be there. You have to work very closely with other departments to make it successful. So if you look at from the pure ROI perspective, it's very, very poor performance by the government. Are they coming up with ideas? Yes. Is it getting better? Yes. Is it creating the kind of impact they could with the kind of money they have spent? Absolutely not. It's a disaster. So I think the departments needs to work very, very closely together. I have seen departments wanting to just put their label so that they can make the brownie pint, and they don't want to do any damn thing on the ground. That's the fact right now.
Yeah. So, Rahul, you from a processing standpoint, right? I mean, at least there are certain states like, I kind of agree with Ruchit's assessment in a slightly more bleaker terms.
Sorry, I like being blunt.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's the whole idea. That's the whole idea.
But
yeah.
After having, spent 8 years and kind of commitment I have shown and the kind of journey I have gone through, I do expect better results from the government. Do things or get out. Don't waste my tax money. Because there's a lot of tax money getting wasted in, fancy looking program is getting launched in some other keys, name. Over and over again, everybody comes and cuts the ribbon for the same fucking thing, and nothing happens.
No, I totally hear your answer, Ruchit, and I think one reason where we do this in a closed room is to actually have these kind of conversations, because otherwise if we speak if we speak in public, we are only going to pat each other's backs and talk all nice things. And the reason to have this in a closed setting is to have, because we have, thankfully, the people who are part of the agribusiness matters community are people who are really serious about some of these impacts, and they do pay a lot of attention to it, even though it's a smaller group. So I'm hoping that some of these goes to the right audience and they do the necessary corrective action here. But that said, there are, like, for instance, I'm just going to, before I bring in Rahul's perspective there, like in Telangana, we've seen this, they've done a better job in the Telangana State Food Processing Society. right? Where they have been able to sort of handhold a lot of FPOs, organizations to collaborate and partner with the larger procuring companies there, right? So some of the efforts have been fairly good in some sense, and I've seen the numbers per se in terms of setting up, federated FPO structures and building efforts there. So we have done fairly okay in few areas and few states, but largely your point is absolutely right, and I fully agree here. Rahul, what do you think from your standpoint, things that we could do better here? Are we, crossing parks, and we've been talking about crossing parks and all that for a very long time. In what ways do you think the ecosystem could strengthen the efforts that what you're putting together in AmalFarm?
We all should start now thinking from the first principle. That is what I feel, right? That lot of places where CFCs are made, where that is 80 kilometers from the core place, right? How a farmer is supposed to go there by taking their produce and utilize the CFC? Because that has been done, that has been made for some other purpose, right? And we know that how this money is actually flowing, right? So such kind of thing is actually happening, correct? So that is one of the aspect that I was actually telling. So so that is one aspect. The other aspect is that the processing has location where the lot of beneficiary in terms of farmer should get. That is very important. And these kind of processing centers is beyond access to the farmers. If we are talking about the farmers, the mighty has the mightful people has an access to this, but the small farmers does not have. So that is one part. The other part is that that even if there is an access to these infrastructure to the farmers, now as Ruchit said, or what is the next step? Where is the market, right? Even if the farmer has the produce, where is the market? Like lot of promotion is happening. So that is also written in my deck also, that lot of promotion is happening, but actually the farmers are getting the market or not, that is a question, right? So that is the responsibility also to the for us companies such as ours, that where do we create and can we make a dent? Because there is no right stakeholder in the ecosystem which is actually trying to make a dent, like Nitin ji was saying that there should be a transparency. So now when we work with FPO, we sign an MOU and we say that per kg there will be this price which it will go to you directly, right? Per kg this is the price, and when we get a purchase order, that purchase order is given to an FPO, and so that he knows what is the price at which we are selling. So there should not be any fraud, right? So now the FPO also says that yes, we are getting a good remuneration per kg. And AmalFarm is also very transparent in sharing now in the industry how many people shares their actually customer purchase order, right? We share purchase order. And then in between, we work that how to minimize the total losses so that we maximize the profit. So that is my take on the infrastructure side, that there are a lot of infrastructure, but whatever I have seen, that infrastructure is not very much easily accessible to the smallholder farmers.
Okay. No, see, in one ways, the government has been now talking about agriculture infrastructure fund with offering interest subvention rates there and there. So are you when you're saying that the markets are there, but at the farmers level for them to produce, are you looking at incentivizing sort of financial structures to improve the infrastructure at the processing end, or what specifically, what areas are you think where we should be increased?
Yeah, so the basics of the like FPO, we work with the FPOs, what kind of let's say for example FSI and compliances, that is a very foundational, very basic, right? What kind of FSI license an FPO should have, right? So it's an ownership of the CBBO, right, who are actually making the FPOs, right? So this foundation should be very clear, when they form an FPO, and then the infrastructure fund which is being rolled out, why it should be rolled out to the FPO if it is not clearly laid down from the very first day, the moment it gets, it's not that ki every year 5 lakh, 5 lakh, 5 lakh, and in 5 years 25, but उसका turnover हर साल कितना बढ़ रहा है, that is also there should also be a KRA for the FPO.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. If it's made for a political reason and then the FPO organization is also becomes very challenging there. Yeah. No, I know we've been talking for a long now, so I want to open up the floor for Vishala, Reshmi, Bharti, and Akshay to come in. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to chime in and to the conversation. But I really appreciate all of you staying along for this conversation so far. Yeah. Any questions from your end or reflections, Vishala, Reshmi?
Nothing from my end so far. I am on an absolute listening mode and very, very insightful discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much. I think it's a brilliant panel. I felt like I've been listening more to development organizations which have probably evolved into something so much better. And yeah, it feels good, and it also I kind of agree to most of the problems that each one of them have actually been highlighting. Looking at solutions for this problem is also like equally fascinating. While I think particularly this aspect of focusing on GI tag product is quite interesting, because Venki, you are aware, we are people who have been like trying to focus on conservation of native varieties also, and that's so important for us to have these community seed banks and seeds kept. And I think there's this whole evolution of that into a GI tag product and a market which is able to carry the entire identity, I think will do a lot of good in keeping our genetic material also, and something that's so culturally also important for Indians, to be very honest. I mean, we like to talk about a specific type of consumers who look like they always look for convenience, but we also know that we have different kind of consumers, and we have consumers who are very specific about their cultural foods, even if it takes 12 hours of soaking. Like we know our Tamil Nadu guys will love their Pungar idli. So I think this is a great line of social enterprise picking up and probably contributing so much to what development has been like struggling to get attention for the last 20 or 25 years. It's a nice way of doing. Brilliant, and a lot of learning, and I agree with a lot of things discussed about the FPOs. And we have such a long way to go to crack this idea of local businesses, community-based organizations, because NGOs also typically had a way of nurturing cooperatives. Of course, it requires a lot of skills, because cooperatives are so much more different from a for-profit organization. And getting small and marginal farmers of India to actually understand the nuances of that, in spite of the fact we have had pacts and we have had cooperative banks forever in our country. But I think it's only certain pockets of India which have seen that deep connect with the cooperative segment. Like in UP, I've met certain people, very senior people, who still call themselves cooperators with pride, with so much pride. And yeah, I think if FPOs can bring back that pride and also bring it till the market, and the markets and consumers also kind of acknowledging that pride of being a cooperator and making this whole ecosystem work better, I think there is a lot of good that will happen for the farmers. Thanks to each one of you for doing what you're doing. And it's always brilliant to attend these sessions. Thanks.
Thank you. And I think to earlier Nitin's earlier point around how the development sector has sort of been in its own different paradigm. I think that has also contributed to where things are at this stage there, right? I mean, I remember there's actually a very good report that's come out, and we picked it up. This is a good report on farming futures here. I don't know if you can see my screen here. Okay, one second. Chase my background here. One second. Yeah, so there's a good book that has come out in terms of from Farming Futures, where they talk about how the different FPOs in India have sort of fared then there. And there they make the same point that, at one point in time, this country, we had a certain kind of culture which led to the strengthening of the cooperatives, which have led to where we are at this point. So yeah. So great. Any more questions from, I know Akshay, you're from Zomato, right? Any
Yes,
questions? Yes?
yes, Venki.
Yeah, now is a good
Hi.
time for you to bring all these players into Zomato and all the quick commerce players.
Yeah, so we have a business division called Hyperpure where we sort of are a B2B procurement platform for HoReCa customers. And would love to maybe get in touch with Rahul and Nitin sir to sort of figure out what we call market linkages. But I've been thinking about provenance and supply chain visibility back to from a farm to fork, because that's a movement that's been happening for the past couple of years now. I'm just trying to understand, right, what's stopping from any mal actor from successful from why, right? So usually what happens is when I go to a mandi or when I go to a shop or my neighborhood shop, right, and the guy usually is pretty much clueless about where the crop has grown from, right? So he'll tell me some very random location just to appease me, saying that the onions are not from Nagpur, but they're from Shimla or some expired location, right? So my thing is that is the government coming up with some validation or verification around the GI tags? I mean, I'm maybe not aware of those to basically prevent malactors from taking over the GI movement. Nitin sir, if you could elaborate more on that, that would be helpful.
Right, Akshay. So Akshay actually doesn't need any form of government support at all. If the product itself, the taste, the quality, the way it cooks, if it's a unique product, if it is a particular specific benefit of a product because it comes from a certain place, it grows in a certain soil, it comes from a certain agroclimatic condition, automatically the taste, quality, nutrition, cooking will be unique. Right? So
Right.
consumer, by just doing a little bit of sampling, will be able to understand whether it's authentic or not.
Yeah. Right.
So it's as simple as that. So as I told you, when we, as Kisaansay, when we go to events where we promote our products in housing societies, corporates, malls, and various other places, people perceive the difference looking at a product, tasting a product, eating a product. It's as simple as that.
Got it. Got it. And in terms of export markets, how have you found the demand for, because a lot of Indian expats would have maybe better
Yeah.
price.
Export as well. In fact, we have orders. We are selling already, not just in India, but to Europe, Germany, US, UK, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. A lot of customers, and trust me, believe me, not only Indians, but a lot of Americans. I know of an American couple who order 4 of my products every month. Right, and they may have some idea about what India is and what Indian products are, and they may have tasted something somewhere, but they find those products so unique that they keep ordering them. Right, so it's all about, I mean, we can do only as much to promote our products, reach consumers. So that's where the angle of the government coming in, supporting, collaborating also comes in. So we have unique products, great products, which have a story, which have a certain nutritional taste element to it, a certain functional differentiation. If you're able to sell it well, the whole worldwide is open. We'll of course take your help to list ourselves on Blinkit, which we've not been able to do.
I'll help you with that. I'll help you with Blinkit as well as
even I'm struggling.
I'll get in touch with you, Ruchit. I'm in touch with Vipul.
Yeah.
So I'll get that done.
All right.
That's the biggest takeaway from this conversation.
Yeah. Thanks, Pinky, for pulling him on the call. Pinky, you are mute, I think.
Sorry, I was saying people generally tell me the ROI of ABM Townhalls in terms of the number of deals they've made after the conversation. So this has been, I mean, recently I met a person who said after the town hall, it led to 3 deals. I said, yeah, that's exactly what my ROI is in terms of making sure that you guys are able to succeed in there. So I'm really glad. One suggestion I would have is when I looked at all your menu is there's a lot of South Indian products that are missing here. So as a true blue Tamilian, I was hoping to see more, like what Vishala was saying, right? There are some amazing Tamil Nadu varieties in terms of rice and, the Ponni Arisis and so many varieties that are there. So hopefully there's not again a north-south divide in the product portfolio of each of these e-commerce platforms as well.
Not at all. We will be introducing all of them.
Great. So one question before I sort of, wrap the whole thing is, how are you seeing the, ONDC model, right? I have tried out ONDC model from FPOs and directly sourcing in there. To a certain extent, it shows promise. Again, it's only targeting right now all your dry grocery kind of products there. But I want to see, is there something that, because there is a centralized entity there, there is also a certain sense of responsibility not really falling well in terms of procurement. I seen this problems there. I ordered a few products just to test it out and see, and saw that it went through a lot of hoops and I got into a lot of trouble to get the right set of products. So I'm curious, given that you all are working on areas that are very similar to ONDC there, in ONDC East Shore Market Show kind of models, what do you think we can strengthen it? And is there a way where because I also know some of the members from Agribusiness Matters are also part of ONDC, and I'm sure they will tune into this at some point. I'm curious to also get a sense of in what ways can each of your entities could collaborate further at ONDC to accelerate this journey forward.
So we've been on ONDC, Venki. So structurally, ONDC is a good concept. And of course, the parallel they draw is to UPI. But unfortunately, UPI is a tech-only, tech-first kind of a transaction mechanism where you don't need any kind of brick and mortar, behind the scenes work to happen. ONDC for a food FMCG company is the other extreme 180-degree other end. Tech doesn't simply work. 99% of the work is brick and mortar, hands and feet on ground. Tech is only the 1% enabler, right? So there are two fundamental, despite the good structure and things that they've put around ONDC, but there are two strong issues of dissonance or challenges, so to say. One is from a consumer standpoint. I have never shopped on ONDC since it came up 2 years ago. You've done it once, as you said. So if I go to any of my buyer apps, quote unquote, that's what they call them, whether I'm on Paytm or whichever bank or whatever else. So first of all, finding that ONDC icon is somewhere down there. I have no incentive to scroll 5 or 6 pages on the app or the website to first of all go to the ONDC and then take the pain to order. I'll take 2 minutes maybe to do it on Blinkit, right? So that's one. So from a consumer standpoint, it doesn't ring a bell from a food FMCG standpoint. From a farmer standpoint, FPC standpoint, the way most of these products are sold today is actually very pathetic. I mean, there is neither a proper packaging or a proper, when you go to an Amazon, you look at, those beautiful images of, good images and good artwork and lots of other stuff around the packaging, the front of the pack, the back of the pack, how it looks, etc., etc. So that is totally missing. They look like, poor little, products which are totally not being cared for by anybody. और किसी ने जबरदस्ती उनको बस डाल दिया 4 फोटो खींच के. So that will never sell. कुछ भी आप कर लें. So it's a dishonor. And then the philosophy is that tech is an enabler and the brick and mortar things need to be put in place. So you need to get the branding right, the packaging right, the logistics, supply chain right. So it's really quite pathetic that way. So I don't know how and who will solve it, when it will be solved, whether it will be solved at all in the first place or not, or do we even need it? I really don't know the answer.
Okay. Any more comments from your and Rahul and Ruchit? Anything you want to add to this?
What is ONDC? Sorry, that's my comment. No, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think they are still learning it, and I've had some chats with most of the folks there. I think they're still figuring things out and trying to see what happens when ideas turn into actual reality. I think there's still a long way in the learning curve there. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that ONDC is a platform, right? But look at the comparison between Amazon and ONDC, right? That Amazon is also a platform, but look at the partners who are helping them to, onboard the seller on the ONDC or the cataloging part or listing part, right? Which is totally missing, right? Now look at the logistics. I have been, using ONDC just to get the sample from the farmers, right? because that is the best place. And a good part is that सारे ONDC पे जो भी farmers के labels होते हैं उसमें उनका mobile number लिखा होता है बड़े-बड़े अक्षर. So you can directly call them at 100 rupees cost, 200 rupees cost. It's the cheapest way to get a lead.
Yeah. I also actually, one of the work I do as an analyst is to kind of look at which FPOs are promising. And for me, what I did was I also looked at all of the most of the brands and I found out which are the ones that, like, if you have to look at, let's say for oils, right, which are the FPOs that are look promising. Actually, I may not, I carry an analyst lens, so I'm not necessarily wearing a consumer lens. So I use it to also do some kind of market study there. So I did something very similar, and that's why I tried some shopping experiments, despite the bad experience that I got as a customer per se. Yeah.
That onus is on the people, right, who are actually hand-holding these guys on boarding, right, the packaging stuff and all those things. Very bad experience, very pathetic experience when totally torn apart, total package is damaged, and then the shipment cost, it goes to 120 rupees, so say 80 rupees to 120 rupees a kg. So there is and then the schedule of the delivery, that does not happen, right?
No, I think, no, but I think this hand-holding organization is where the key is, and I think hopefully they should be able to kind of come in and do that. But great, it's been a fantastic conversation, gentlemen. I really don't want to take much more of your time on an evening. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to speak with us. This is Agribusiness Matters has been largely a sort of a small, well-knit community where we try and push the boundary of the ecosystem. And that's exactly what we strive to do in this conversation today, also see in what ways can each of your efforts, right? Because each of you have taken bold leaps into the unknown in many ways and are really driving also some of the conversation there. I'm sure, your success will spawn, in Vishala's efforts in taking some of the other native seed varieties and converting them to GI products. So each of these create a sort of a nice cascading effects there, and I hope that this further emboldens a lot of people to embark in these journeys. So on that note, thank you very, very much for joining and speaking to us today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much. See you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.